Well, thank you again for coming. I really appreciate it, especially getting a chance to meet you face to face.
Absolutely.
And I guess the first thing I'd like to do is just kind of tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
Just to kind of give people a background. I know you're from Senoia, but yeah, fill us in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, my name's James Callaway, but I go by Jimmy. So that's why you see the quotations, Jimmy Callaway for sheriff. I was born in Decatur. My dad was a battalion chief for the DeKalb County Fire Department. He's since passed away, but he was always a little bit disappointed that I went to law enforcement instead of fire service. But I have a deep respect and deep love for the fire service, just because I grew up in a fire station. I played in a fire station. I played on fire trucks my whole childhood growing up. So I have a very fond memory of the fire service for that reason.
Yeah.
We moved out to Conyers to Rockdale County when I was in elementary school, and I pretty much grew up in Conyers, in Rockdale. Got a job with the Rockdale County Sheriff's Office a little bit after college. I didn't complete college at first. I dropped out and got married first, and my wife knew that I wanted to be a cop, so about 6 months after we were married, I got a job with the Rockdale County Sheriff's Office, and I worked there for over a decade. While there, I worked in the jail, worked the court services, I worked patrol, night shift, evening watch, day shift. I was a DARE instructor in the school system. I was a grade instructor, which is gang resistance education. I became a gang expert while I was at Rockdale County. I was tapped by the United States Department of Justice to do a gang summit in 2003 in Atlanta. Was a speaker for that event. And we saw an increase in crime in Rockdale that was bleeding in from DeKalb. I-20 runs through Rockdale County, and DeKalb is right next door. So, and Gwinnett's was to our north side. So I would see telltale signs of gang activity in the county. I would see the tagging. I was a young deputy, so I had visions of grandeur that I wanted to save the world.
Sure.
And I would go out and take pictures. And it was old school technology. I had a Polaroid.
Yeah.
So I had a 3-ring binder. I would take pictures of suspects in the jail, take pictures of suspects that I can't encounter on the street. Developed a very elementary intel on these people and on what kind of gangs that were coming to the county. And my enthusiasm was not met by some of the people above me, and they kind of wanted to smack me down and say, this is not really happening here. This is not an issue for us. And I got real disheartened with that. I really did. So after working at the sheriff's office, being vested, working there for over a year, I wanted to work at the sheriff's office my whole career.
Yeah.
I planned to retire from there. I had an opportunity to go to the city of Morrow, and an opportunity arose, and I took it. And I left Rockdale and went to the city of Morrow Police Department. That was after a short stint at Morrow Police. I did work for about 6 months at Morrow.
Oh, wow.
I realized real quick that that's not what I was cracked up to be.
Sure.
I'm a street cop, but I'm not a trained cop. So
Yes.
I realized pretty quick where I needed to be.
Absolutely.
So went to the city of Morrow and was a detective, and I got to work gangs in Clayton County.
Perfect.
So I was able to do that. I was actually the commander for the Sheriff's Vice Task Force in Clayton County. We took down a lot of counterfeit operations that were going on in the county, prostitution details in the county. We shut down every illegal spa that was in the county in one day. That was a huge undertaking. There was about 15, I think, we took down that one day, and we used over 150 officers from Immigration Customs Enforcement. We also took a two-tier approach. We knew that we were going to have victims of human trafficking, so we also called Tapestry, which is a trafficking organization that rescues these women. So we were able to go in not with the thought of arresting these women for prostitution, but with the thought of rescuing them out of that lifestyle and going after the owners. And also, we seized everything. We seized everything from their furniture to the buildings. We had tractor trailers full of stuff. And they never reopened again in Clayton County. And to this day, they're still gone from Clayton County. So I'm very proud for that operation.
Absolutely.
So that was back in, I want to say, 2006, 2007. Worked my way up in detective ranks and became a sergeant. Then I became a lieutenant, and I was lieutenant for a while in investigations, worked anything from bank robberies to fraud.
Yeah.
Then I became a captain over the division, over investigations. During the same time, I was very involved with the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police as an associate member, and also I was involved very heavily with the Georgia Gang Investigators Association.
Okay.
I was involved as a member back in Rockdale when I was a young deputy. I've been involved in that organization for going on 16 years now, and right now I'm the president of that organization.
Gotcha.
We have about 1,500 members statewide. We train local, state, and federal authorities on gangs. We also train prosecutors on gangs. We'll go into schools and do seminars with teachers. We actually did one here in Coweta County several years ago for the teachers here in this county. And we also did a week-long seminar here in the county for law enforcement in Coweta County. So I'm very pleased about our association and the services that we provide throughout the state.
Did you get any feedback from teachers while you were down here?
It was eye-opening, really, because once you are shown certain things, certain indicators of gang activity, it's almost it's a cultural thing to a degree. But when you see popular music and you can pull actual gang connotations out of popular music, where you might have a kid that's just listening to it, he doesn't know, or a parent doesn't know what to recognize. They're just allowing their children to listen to what they think is cool. But when you can actually put your finger on it and point out signs, characteristics, and symbols, and show them that's, relative of the Blood Nation or the Folk Nation, or this is Gangster Disciple, or this is Ghostface Gangsters, or whatever the case may be, when you can show them documented proof, per se, of what a gang looks like, and these are signs and characteristics, it's eye-opening. I learned that as an SRO. I was a school resource officer for a number of years. After the Heritage High School shooting in 1999, I was a first responder to that school.
Oh, wow.
So as I was en route to that school, pulled up in the parking lot, we were pulling kids that had been shot out of that school to safety, and they had already had the shooter in custody. The principal, or the vice principal, Cecil Bailey, actually was able to talk the gun away from the kid, and no force was used to make the arrest, and he was taken into custody. But ever since that event, I became very attuned to school safety. And the sheriff at the time made some more positions available for SROs, just like we're seeing today, in the middle schools. We only had them in the high schools. When I was a road deputy, and the opportunity came for me to be an SRO in a middle school. And I talked to my wife about it, and I was like, this is a good opportunity, but I'm going to miss the street. I like working the street. That's where my passion is. There's really kind of two theories in law enforcement. One's the warrior theory. The other one is the guardian theory. I kind of lean more towards the warrior theory in a sense. I understand the guardian theory too. But there's got to be a good mix of both.
And you need that for SRO. I mean, because I think someone said in the past that a lot of agencies might take problematic officers off the road and say, we'll just put them in the schools. Well, that's not a great idea, obviously. I mean, you've got to have a certain kind of temperament to work. I mean, I think that's what you're talking about, is the perfect mix of warrior and guardian, it sounds like.
You're correct. And actually, when you talk about that problem officer, hopefully our managers and our front level supervisors are better attuned using an early warning system to identify problem officers and deputies and deal with them through EAP beforehand, before they have to put them out to the pasture, or transfer them to the jail, or transfer them to where they're out of their hair. And a lot of times they'll put them on a task force somewhere to where they're gone. They don't have to see them.
Right,
exactly.
sure. Okay.
But I talked to my wife. I said, it's going to be a big change for us because I'm going to be working Monday through Friday, which is nice. I'll be home on Christmas and holidays. So I went with the understanding of the sheriff that I would be able to work the street on occasion and work high crime areas. So whenever the summers came around, I didn't take off the summers. I couldn't do it. That's just not. I mean, I took vacations, obviously, but I wanted to be in the trailer park that we had in the county. It was a 4,000 trailer park that had 10,000 residents in this one area, and we had a precinct. So I was assigned to that precinct working the trailer park. And in some areas, it was high crime. But we really did a lot to those citizens. There's good people that live there, and all they want is a safe place to raise their family, raise their children, to not be victims of crime. So I was very happy to be able to serve in that role, and also continue with some gang intelligence, worked some areas that were higher crime in other areas of the county too. So I could float around the county and not be assigned to a zone. So I really did enjoy that. And I was able to go to conferences and things like that. But being an SRO, I learned a lot. I learned how to deal with people, learned how to talk to people. And actually being a middle school SRO is a lot more difficult than being a high school SRO.
Oh, yeah.
So I worked at the middle school for several years. They became family. It really was a really good experience. And at the time, it was during the whole cops era when Clinton pushed out 100,000 more cops, and also pushed out the big cops grants and things like that. And that's all well and good, but I saw a flaw in that. And the flaw is we started seeing departments. I'm not saying my department or the department here in Coweta. I'm saying nationwide. There were departments that were specializing in units. They were calling them cops units, or community-oriented policing units, or problem-solving units. And they would assign just a couple of people or a handful of people to these cops units. So I saw a disconnect. And the disconnect that I saw is the cops officers, they would go to all the neighborhood watch programs, all the church meetings, do all that kind of touchy-feely kind of stuff, and they never would work the street, and they would forget over time what the streets were, and they would lose that skill set. You have to practice it, or you'll lose it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they were not saying they were lazy, but they were falling along the wayside, learning how to be real cops. And on the flip side of that coin, I saw the street cops that were not able or didn't go to those meetings, and they weren't engaged in the community. So they're out here answering all these hot calls and not having to do the other side of the coin.
Right.
So the better solution to that, and this is my philosophy where I'm the chief at now, is it's a community-oriented policing department from the head of the agency all the way down to the whoever, all the way down to the road patrol. And you should have a deputy or an officer that can be aggressive on crime, that can be a warrior against that, but also be a guardian and go into that business, go into that convenience store, know the owner's name, sit there, talk with them, chat with them. How's it going today? And be polite and be friendly and engaging. That's how you build legitimacy and procedural justice within a community. Where I'm a chief, it's a very diverse area. Yeah. I've had to learn, and I don't know how to learn. It's my nature because I grew up in an integrated church my whole life. I've never known anything else but integration in my relationships and in church and things like that. So that's a little bit weird to me. But being the chief in a diverse area has really given me a very keen eye for how to make that work. Morrow is very diverse. We have a 23% Asian population. There's different things and different cultural things that go along with that. So those things that we teach to our officers and how to respond effectively to that and how to build that trust in the community so they can talk to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with all that in your background, when did the genesis of the idea to maybe try to pursue something here locally happen?
Well, I've been actually ever since, like I said, I was at Rockdale County.
Yeah.
I was a deputy sheriff. My buddy's the sheriff over there now. I've always had a kind of a burning within myself to be a sheriff one day.
Yeah.
I definitely want to be a police chief. That's the kind of the end all to be all to get to the top of your game.
Sure.
So I've been preparing myself for a time such as this my whole life. I went ahead and finished my degree. I have an associate's degree. I have a bachelor's degree. I'm halfway through a master's degree. I have advanced training from Mercer University for public safety leadership. FBI training for the law enforcement executive development. Also, University of Louisville. I'm a graduate of their Southern Police Institute, which is a very esteemed program. It's a 4-month-long in-house program.
Yeah.
Learned a whole lot through the University of Louisville. I believe education is key and important. That's not the end all to be all. Don't get me wrong. Street knowledge is important too, and the knowledge of the job is important as well too. But in this day and age, when you look at organizations, when you look at business, when you look at, to be a lawyer, you have to go to law school. You have to pass the bar.
Sure.
To be a judge, you have to be a lawyer. Most best practices in Metro Atlanta, to be a police chief, you have to have a college degree. It's not the same with a sheriff. I get that. And I'm not saying having a college degree makes you better than anybody else. But what I am saying, it does give you a good outlook on life and a very good perspective overall about how things run.
Yeah.
And I believe I bring that to the table.
And I don't think anyone ever argues against any continued education, especially in law enforcement and stuff like that. I mean,
Correct.
More is more. I mean, what you're adding to your...
And there's actually studies that show that college-educated officers have less use of force incidents.
Okay.
And a lot of that could be because of deconfliction. Again, I'm not saying that education is the end-all to be-all.
Right.
You have to have a college degree to be a cop. But I do think it's something that needs to be looked at, and it's important.
Okay. Well, one thing I was going to ask you is, what do you like about the sheriff's office presently, but what changes would you like to see both short-term and long-term?
Sure. The sheriff has done an excellent job.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything bad about the sheriff. Never have, never will. What I will say is I have, as a third-party resident of the county and a law enforcement official myself,
right.
I have seen that they are progressive for a sheriff's office. A lot of times when you get out into middle Georgia, South Georgia, North Georgia, it's not the case. The pay is very low. The qualifications or the vetting processes are not there. I can tell here that they do have a push for technology. They have the computers in their cars. They have the printers in the cars. They were one of the first in the state to roll out body cams. I rolled them out soon after that, but they were one of the first to do that. I was the first to get licensed by the FAA to fly drones as close to the airport, but I also know that they have drones here as well too, because I actually came down and volunteered during the Antifa rallies and flew our drone to help out down here, which was a pleasure to be able to do since I'm a resident.
Yeah.
But right now I see that they're very And the man tracker training is very high end training too. So all those things I would definitely compliment their organization on. The deputies look professional, which is a huge thing in my mind. Their uniform appearance, we're going to load bearing vests and outer carriers and stuff at our department. They're probably going to go to that here too. That's something that I would do. That's a little bit different, but they look professional when they wear their ties and they have their long sleeve shirts on. I do like the old school campaign hats. I'm a big fan of the campaign hat. I'm not saying that I would make them wear it all the time, but I do like them.
That was one of them for sure, was with there being a current trend in agencies to switching to more comfortable uniforms like external vests or load-bearing duty vests, allowing facial hair. Would you possibly see any kind of change in the deputy's appearance and that sort of dress code or whatever kind of protocol that would be?
Well, I will say the load-bearing vest, yes, I'm good with, but they need to be uniform. They need to look good. The facial hair, sorry, I'm getting over a cold. The load-bearing vests, like I said, are cool, but the facial hair, I'm going to have to be sold on it, to be honest with you, because I'm a traditionalist. I like facial hair, but I don't have it when I wear a uniform.
Yeah.
But I can be swayed. Tattoos, I'm cool with.
Yeah.
You can be sleeved up as long as they're appropriate. I'm fine.
Yeah, right on. All right. And here was another one I thought was a good question in terms of, invariably the sheriff is the public relations officer of the department. You know, I mean, the buck kind of stops with him. How would you kind of handle the pressure of giving like a politically correct mainstream cookie cutter answer versus telling the media and public information that answers they might not want to hear?
I have no problem with that. Just look at my record. I mean, I'm not politically correct. I've Google me, and you can pull up news stories from all different media outlets in Atlanta where I give interviews. I have no issue at all telling people just how it is.
Yeah, that's great. And from an employee standard, work gets done much more efficiently if the expectations are tempered by the time they get to, that person. One likes to work for a boss who's not afraid to put the gloves on if need be. Sounds like.
You'll see me out there,
There you
on
go.
the street.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if there's a crash, a bad crash in town, you'll see me at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll direct traffic if I need to direct traffic. I do that where I work now.
Yeah. Well, one thing some people have already talked about, because I don't know if it was you who said it or maybe someone else, where we need to be with the jail in 5 to 10 years. What are your thoughts on it right now? There's different conflicting schools of thought on it.
Well, without having intimate knowledge, I'll be the first to tell you I've never been inside the jail here.
Okay.
I've been inside jails all over the state of Georgia. I've not been inside that one.
Okay.
So with specificity, I really can't comment too much to that degree, but I will say this. It goes not only for jail operations, but it goes for patrol operations and investigative operations across the board, civil warrants, everything. We have to have a 3, 5, 10, 15-year plan as we grow. This county is larger than Gwinnett County.
Right.
And people are sick and tired of the north side. They're going to start, this is kind of the best kept secret. We're kind of under a rock down here. We love it. Don't come down here. But that's going to change. Right. As people realize this is a jewel down here, we've got to protect this jewel, and we've got to put more into planning and seeing how zones are set up, how response times are set up, how the jail operates, what could be done. But I'm all about process improvement. Six Sigma guy. If it can be improved through processes and things and waste eliminated, let's go that route.
Yeah.
I really wondered years ago when I first moved here why there wasn't a jail at the courthouse. And I don't know if there's room to build one in the future there through SPLOST or whatever. But eventually there's going to have to be something done, obviously.
Yeah. More
jail space, more bed space, because as we grow as a community, we're already at 140-something thousand residents in the county now. 10, 20 years down the road, where are we going to be?
Yeah.
Are we going to be 300,000, 400,000?
Right.
Are we going to look like the next Cobb or Gwinnett County? Potentially so. And I guarantee you, if the sheriff's office, whoever the next sheriff is, if we don't grow at a pace that's at where it needs to be, you're going to see the citizens not happy with that, and you're going to see a county commission that's forced with the idea of a county police department. How do you think Cobb County had a police department? Now, Gwinnett County has a police department. Henry County has a police department. DeKalb County has a police department. Clayton County has a police department. So if we get sucked into that metro, look at Fulton.
Yeah.
Fulton County, there is hardly any area in the county that's not covered by a city. There's a small area on Fulton Industrial Boulevard that's now Fulton County PD. Now you have the city of South Fulton. At the north end of the county, you have Milton, Johns Creek, all that up there. So again, we have to plan, we have to provide those services. And the service delivery, and when I'm the sheriff, is going to exceed expectations.
Yeah. And like I think you talked about that too with the growth that is inevitably coming. I think it's safe to say that the sheriff's office in the past has been relatively proactive rather than reactive.
Sure.
How would you kind of expand on that? I mean, you've seen the growth of places like Gwinnett and all that. What do you see kind of in, I guess, with that 3, 5, 15 kind of mentality? What do you see coming in down here?
Sure. I see a lot of young professionals, your millennials. People are sick of the traffic coming from the north side in the north side area. We're touted as being, one of the fastest growing counties around, and it's going to continue to be that way. But with the affluency that you have in particular in some of the areas around Senoia, that's going to wind up becoming known to the criminal element. They're going to know where the money is, and they're going to know where the targets are. So it's up to law enforcement in general. Higher visibility, extremely proactive. Policing is very effective. High visibility on I-85 corridor. I'd like to start a drug interdiction unit for the interstate specifically.
Right.
I would also like to start a motors unit, so the deputies will be on motorcycles. Not all of them, just a few. And I mean, have you ever tried to drive anywhere in Newnan at 4 or 5 o'clock? You can't get around town.
Yeah.
So the motor units would obviously be able to get around town.
That's it. And that was another one that they were going to touch on, were any specialized units like DUI task force, intensified traffic units, things like that.
Exactly. And I have to get with the state patrol commander, because I understand that funding for the trooper post here in Newnan is contingent upon how many crashes they work. I get that. So they put troopers in areas based on those numbers. The numbers here in Coweta have gone up exponentially. And I don't know if you've ever rolled up on a crash, but to roll up on a crash and deal with somebody dying in front of you is terrible.
Yeah.
Dealing with that on a personal level. So I'd offer the deputies any kind of assistance they would need to cope with those kind of things through employee assistance or employee betterment programs.
Sure.
But the crashes specifically, we would dial down on the contributing factors of those crashes and do the enforcement effectively against those contributing factors, which most of the time is speed or reckless driving or distracted driving.
Sure.
So we would focus those areas around the county, and I would use a traffic unit, and I would send several deputies to advanced training to go through reconstruction, on-scene traffic investigation, so we could provide the service, because we're a full-service sheriff's office, that we could work the crashes ourselves and provide that service to our citizens.
Very cool.
But also, not throwing GSP out the window, but they could work in conjunction with us, or we could share. They could work some, we could work some. I'm not going to kick GSP out of the county by any stretch.
They would not complain at all. I mean, the way they are currently and have been.
But the minor crashes that are fender benders or things like that, deputies, if I'm there, I'll work it. I mean, they can do it in 2 minutes. It's simple.
Right.
It's very simple.
Okay. Well, historically in Coweta County, Sheriff's Office, Police Department, both Chief Police, Sheriff get along great, that sort of thing. Can you talk about your relationship in Morrow and as between Sheriff and yourself?
Sure. I work very well with the Sheriff in Clayton County. I know he's a controversial subject, but what I will say about the Sheriff is anytime I've picked up that phone and I've needed any assistance, be it canine, be it SWAT, and we've used our SWAT team several times. It was kind of funny. So I called the sheriff. I said, Sheriff, I need your SWAT team. We have identified the bank robbery suspect from our bank. They're just outside the city limits. I don't have a SWAT team. Can you please meet up and help? I've got search warrants and arrest warrants already done up. Within 30 minutes, I had roughly 50 deputy sheriffs in my back parking lot with armored personnel carriers, with canine units, unmarked cars, all geared up, ready to go, SWAT. And Clayton's a little bit different. They're almost full-time SWAT. Between the county PD and the SO, they're full-time. And I get along great with Clayton County Police Department and with the SO. But like I said, pick up the phone. I got exactly what I needed. We made the arrest. Nobody got hurt. Bad guy went to jail. Very good stuff. The other day we had some issues with some traffic lights in the city. I don't know if you've ever been on Highway 54 in Jonesboro Road by South Lake Mall. Traffic is crazy. So the lights were out. I had one guy that we had to send to College Park to pick up an inmate, and we had one guy on a call. I had my supervisor and had a couple other guys that were in the city. I called the sheriff. I said, Sheriff, I'm hurting here. Can you send me a couple deputies? Within 15 minutes, I had 2 deputies there. They were helping us direct traffic. Sometimes at Southern Regional Hospital, if we make an arrest,
Right.
we have to sit on that inmate. Sometimes I'll make a phone call and say, Sheriff, I've got state warrants on this guy. Can you send the deputy to sit on him? I don't do that very often,
Yeah.
but occasionally when we have to do it, I've never had any issue. And I can tell you here in this county, once I'm the sheriff, I've already worked with Buster for years, and I know him very well from helping him with the state certification program to get state certified. They recently attained their state certification. I'm a state certification assessor. I go around the state and assess police departments, but I didn't assess their police department. I just helped them through their mocks and their on-site stuff to help them out with that. But same thing for Senoia PD. They are state certified. I went in and helped them as well too. But I can tell you, all the cities in the county, I will gladly deputize their entire police departments. And on top of that, areas like Turin and Sharpsburg they don't have their own police departments, I will get with those city councils and those mayors and discuss law enforcement operations. But on top of that, I want to start an inmate work crew. That there's some confusion because people in the county, they see inmates working on the side of the road. They just assume they're jail inmates. Well, they're state convicted felons. They're from the county prison.
Right. That's
unique to this county. Now, I used to work in Rockdale, like I said before. I actually ran an inmate detail, a work crew. They wore the Prip chain gang black and white stripes.
Yep.
We'd get up in the morning. We'd pack all of our lunches, put it on the van. We had a trailer with a porta potty bolted to the trailer itself, so we didn't have to take bathroom breaks. We took them out through the county, picking up trash all day long. And we would do that for the cities. We'd go into the cities and pick up trash and I'll cut the right of way, cut the city property for them, because I believe a lot of the cities that are unincorporated actually pay contracted fees to landscape companies to come out and actually do that, and I could do it free of charge.
Right. Yeah.
So that would be a service I would provide to the unincorporated. They're paying county taxes anyway.
Right, of course.
So why not?
Yeah, that's been a source of contention for a while. I think that comes up generally in the summer. They'll say, we've been contracted to do this, but nothing's
I will
getting
say
done.
this. This is coming from a citizen's point of view. This past year was horrible. Okay? And I know it's probably been in the news.
Sure.
When you drive from Peachtree City, you know when you hit the Coweta County line because the grass is 12 feet tall and there is trash everywhere.
Right.
And that's just not what our community needs to be like.
Right.
It needs to be the flip. When you cross over to Coweta, you be like, this is nice. I don't think I'm in Coweta County now.
Right.
So that's what I would bring to the table too. And some people are like, well, how are you going to pay for it? I'll worry about that when the time comes. But there's ways,
Always.
Trust me, to fund things like that.
Sure. Okay. Well, speaking from an employee, they typically work at the pleasure of the sheriff.
Correct.
What would kind of be the basis in determining kind of who stays and who goes? I mean, how long is that kind of assessment period when you come into an agency that, you haven't really worked for in the past? That's a lot to kind of take in at once.
I get that.
Yeah.
And again, look at my track record when I became chief. I've heard time and time again, he's going to come in here and bring in all his boys. He's going to come in here and turn the place upside down. He's going to come in here and change everything. Guys, no, I'm not. I said, I'm going to give this what I feel is my calling to be the sheriff and to train you guys and to mentor, hopefully, you guys where you need to be. If you're working in a division you don't want to be in, let's sit down and talk about it and get you trained where you need to be. Again, the other 2 candidates that currently work at the sheriff's office, if I get elected sheriff, they're more than welcome to stay on board.
Right.
I'm not going to come in and fire people. It's just a ridiculous notion.
Yeah.
So I want to quench those fears.
Yeah, because after...
And sheriffs are notorious for doing that.
Yeah.
All over the country.
Right. And I think after especially a 25-year period of steady one-person leadership,
right,
there's going to be apprehension like, gosh, like...
Change is never comfortable.
Right.
Change is uncomfortable. But I will tell you this. It'll work its way out. And what I mean by that is if people don't like policies, if people don't like accountability, if people don't like the expectations that are going to be set forth clearly, then they'll work their way out. They won't want to work for me.
Yeah. And
the ones that stay will want to work for me.
Very cool. So. All right. And then, basically, what do I have? What I guess the best one, and in a very roundabout way, is just what kind of separates you currently from the other candidates? Kind of what do you bring to the table that's exclusive to you alone?
Sure. And again, I got into this, and I'm going to continue like this. I'm not ever going to talk bad about any of the candidates, period.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about Jimmy Callaway and what Jimmy Callaway can bring to the table. I'm a law enforcement professional. I've been doing this for 23, 24 years now. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Amy. We've been married the whole time, and we've got 3 daughters. I've got 2 adult daughters and 1 daughter that's still in East Coweta Middle School. I hear this whole thing, well, you ain't from around here. Well, a lot of people ain't from around here, but I've been here for over a decade.
Right.
My wife is a banker at a local bank here in town, in the city limits of Newnan. My children, 2 of them graduated from East Coweta High School. I'm a drummer at Trinity Fellowship Church. I played at South Metro Church. I'm very involved with my church currently, with music. Music's one of my passions.
Yeah.
So the whole notion of I'm not from around here is a little bit silly in my mind.
Yeah.
We love it here. I've bought a home here. I bought a home in Newnan first, then we moved to Senoia. But we frequent local businesses whenever we can. So I want to put all that kind of
Sure.
to bed, really. But get people to know who I am. So I have executive experience. I've run a Metro Atlanta Police Department. I currently run a Metro Atlanta Police Department. And the good thing about this whole deal, on June 19th, if Jimmy Callaway does not win this election, Jimmy Callaway is still the chief of police in Morrow.
Yeah.
Okay? I wish it would go the other way. And I'm praying that it is going to go the way that I want it to go. So that in and of itself is good. So I have the executive level experience. The District 10 representative for Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police. We train police chiefs all over the district, which this is actually District 10 in Coweta. So Buster Meadows comes to a lot of our training events that we do. I'm very well networked throughout the state.
Yeah.
I've been working with Chris Carr, who's the Attorney General. I've been working with his gang network, which is a statewide endeavor. I believe the professional aspects and my well-roundedness, because I come from a sheriff's background, like I said. I have experience in the jail. I have experience working warrants. I have experience doing civil. I have experience doing court services. I was an SRO. I was a DARE instructor in the school system. I was a road patrol deputy. I worked every facet of the sheriff's office that there was. Also have the municipal police experience in a city police department, working investigations, working vice and narcotics, working undercover, and ultimately becoming a CEO of an organization in Metro Atlanta. So distinctly, I think a lot of that, in my education, I think that sets me apart from anybody else.
Very cool. And just out of the left field, I guess. I mean, you're a drummer. I'm a drummer.
Yeah.
How long have you been playing?
My whole life,
Yeah.
well, since I was 10.
What'd you get? What inspired you?
So,
Anyone specifically?
yeah, and I'm going to tell on myself, and some people probably aren't going to like this, but that's okay. So, I said before, I grew up in an integrated church.
Yeah.
So, my dad was a blues man. So, my dad played blues. And my dad was integral in a lot of the Auburn Street blues stuff in downtown Atlanta. But a long time ago, he was in a band called the Night Shadows. So I grew up in a very diverse musically environment. A lot of my dad's friends were African American musicians. So I learned how to play black gospel at an early age. So that kind of mixed with hard rock and heavy metal later for me. So I was able to kind of mix genres and play a little bit different style of music. So I started actually, I can remember in my bedroom, my dad bought me my first drum set. I was 10 years old. Huey Lewis and the News. It's hip to be square.
Yeah.
So that song, I played it over and over and over again. Never had any lessons. And I started playing more in churches. And I kind of refused to do the whole club scene because it's just not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I felt it was more of a calling for me to be in ministry than anything else. So
Better hours. That's for
better
sure.
hours, yeah, exactly. 4 o'clock loadout.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that.
No, thanks.
So that was a lot for me playing. And I was in a band. We were actually signed to a label. And we had Best Buy distribution for the band that I was in. And then it came to a crossroads where really I was 19 or 20 at the time. I got married when I was 21. So it got to the point where I was either going to put all my energy into being a full-time musician or I was going to be a police officer. And I always wanted to be a police officer. I was an explorer when I was in high school with Conyers Police. And that's another thing, too. I like to bring an explorer's post here to this county to mentor young kids just so they can see the sheriff's office firsthand through a long program. But, when we got into the music and doing things like that, the money sometimes would be okay, but then sometimes they were like, well, we'll feed you dinner, and that's all you'd get. Yeah. So I learned pretty quick, and from talking to other actually pretty high-level musicians that were signed to deals and touring, it's not all it cracked up to be. They weren't making the money I thought they were making.
Yeah.
And they shared that with me. So I went down the road that had the benefits, the retirement program. I get paid every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I get to do what I love. So,
Yeah.
but the best of both worlds is I still get to do what I love.
Well, yeah.
And I still get to play. Not as much as I would like to, but I still get to do it. And I just really enjoy being able to engage with people. And I use it to my advantage as a police chief now. We have a summer event every year in Morrow, and this is on YouTube. You can Google it. Just put Police Chief Brings the Funk or whatever it's called, or Police Chief Plays Drums, and you'll be able to pull up several videos. But I get up with a band that we hire and play one of the songs.
Yeah.
And I never practice beforehand. They don't know who I am. We just get up there and jam. And the citizens, when they hear that and see it for the first time, when I get off the drums and walk around the front of the stage, they were like, man, you're cool. We had no idea, but it's you connecting with people on a different level.
Definitely.
You're humanizing things with them, and that's what I'm about.
Yeah.
You know, I don't take myself very seriously. Mm-hmm. I'm all about command structure. I'm all about respect. And I'm all about professionalism, how it looks. But at the same time, we can have a fun place to work.
Yeah.
I can kid with you, you can kid with me, and I can be real with the citizens.
Yeah, and I think that's the hallmark of any successful law enforcement department, be it police, sheriff's office, is that humanization. And when deputies, officers have that kind of connection where it's like, I'm just, if you're shooting basketball, you're playing guitar, whatever you're doing, you're connecting with them in that kind of level that, otherwise they're so separate, getting out of the cars, talking to people instead of you're just breaking down those walls. And I think that every successful department, I think they adhere to that kind of strategy. So that sounds
right.
good.
What I encourage my own employees to do, whatever your passion is, outside of work too, pursue that, but find a niche within law enforcement. If it's working crashes, I'll send you to schools. Let's go. If you like canine, let's look at doing that. Motors, let's look at doing that. I want people to be happy with their careers, and that's one thing I'll do is I'll sit down with every single employee and just sit down and chat face to face with them what they want to do, and try to make steps so they can have a career path to get that intermediate certification, to get that advanced certification, and hopefully eventually work with the county board of commissioners to have incentives for the intermediate, for the advanced, have an incentive for a college degree, if they possess one, or if they want to go back and get one. And if they want to go back and get one, can we offer tuition reimbursement?
Sure.
And how much does that cost? Can we absorb that? If we can't, I understand the county commission sets the budget, but these are ideas I'm going to bring to the county commission and ideas to the table.
Well, and you just mentioned it in terms of incentives, things like that. One of the things we've kind of noticed down here is we have a relatively strict hiring process, I think, from my outside view looking in, and we just don't take anyone off the street. They're vetted. But as soon as they are trained, brought up, the whole bit, we tend to have a problem with retention right now. We might be losing people to maybe the GSP or maybe to other agencies that might be paying better, greater benefits. Any thoughts on strategies regarding retention?
Sure. Now, I'm dealing with the same thing where I work now. It's an issue all over the place. And Brookhaven just really messed it up for us bad.
I've heard about
Brookhaven. God bless him. If Chief Yander, if you're listening to this, thanks. So Brookhaven just upped their starting pay to $48,500.
Right.
And I've always been my goal has been I wanted to see a starting pay for police at 50.
Yeah.
I wanted to see it at 50, and with a scale for more experience. But Brookhaven knocked it out of the park. So 48.5 up to 71,000 based on experience and training and education, things like that. With a take-home car, 2,000 retention bonus for 26 months of service. So things are going to have to be talked about. Things are going to have to be floated to the county commission. Is it that we up across the board the scale completely? Because I know they just did that recently here, and they've just now gotten up to par where a lot of Metro Atlanta is. But it's hard once you get to that point, then you have to go ask for more. It's difficult to do that. I'm not afraid to do that.
Yeah.
But it's something that's going to have to be talked about. Do we do a $5,000 sign-on bonus, or do we do a $5,000 retention bonus after 24 months or 26 or 36 months? If you can show people how much it costs on paper to hire a deputy, put them in a uniform, put them in a vest, get them out there, get them trained, you're going to actually save money in the long run, because you have to also figure in the time it takes for those supervisors, that FTO that's training him, also the hiring person that's doing the background investigation, all that together combined is your total cost, which can be easily $10,000 just for one person that leaves.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, things need to be looked at about retention. Things need to be looked at about overall, benefits and things of that nature. We actually upped our benefit program at the city. Our pension plan now, we get a no penalty at 55 years old, and we get a full 3% per year. So they go at 90% at where I work now. I'm not saying that we can do that here, but there's some things that I would like to look at. I'm outside the box kind of thinker. I talk to all kinds of people, so I'm open to discussion.
Yeah.
And what is best in the long road for the deputy, because my heart is with the deputy, believe it or not.
Yeah.
It's not for me. I'm not running for sheriff because Jimmy Callaway is the best and the brightest and all this and that. I want to give back to this community, and I want to be there for these young deputies and fight crime and be that sheepdog that is standing at the gate of all areas of this county where the criminal will be afraid to come in this county.
Absolutely. I think that's what everybody wants.
Right.
All right. Well, Jimmy, thank you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
All right.